To extend a hearty welcome to all the students, scholars, and teachers of philosophy across the country to be connected with us in this students' webinar. On 26th December, we conducted the students, when the past students webinar, in which five UG students and six research scholars joined as participants, and their presence made the webinar series successful and very meaningful. Today, we have with us six participants today, and they belong to both the UG and the PG. Two students are from PG standard, and four students belong to UG standard. They are Ms. Ankita Podar, Ms. Smruti Rekha Naik, Ms. Jyoti Biswas, Ms. Borsha Bisoi, Ms. Lakshmi Ghatwali, and Ms. Subhasi Patra. I welcome all of them to today's webinar. Today we have with us the respected judges, Professor Paresh Chandra Das sir, Professor Anup Rai sir, Professor Dr. K. Om Rao sir, and I also welcome all the sponsors of the students webinar program. On this occasion, I welcome to our admin and supervisor all the papers and the man behind the main architect of the entire program, Professor Pramod Kumar Das of Noyagoda Autonomous College, Noyagoda. I welcome him. With this, I also welcome all the senior teachers to be connected with this virtual academic program. On this occasion, it's time to call upon the first presenter of today's webinar, Ms. Ankita Podar. Ms. Ankita Podar is a PG student. Today, we have also we have been benefited by the observation made by Professor Paresh Das sir, Professor Anup Rai, Professor Dr. K. Rao, and at last, very beautifully, Professor Pramod Kumar Das has discussed and given his observation regarding the Niskam Karma Bhagavad Gita, how one should not run after the consequences of one's action. Thanks so much. And it's time to go to the next speaker. Our next speaker and presenter is Ms. Borsha Bisoi. Borsha Bisoi is our next presenter. She is the UG first student, philosophy honors of Balugang College. Her topic is inner mechanism. Inner mechanism. May I request and welcome Ms. Borsha Bisoi, UG first student, Balugang College, to commence her speech, commence her presentation on inner mechanism. Over to Borsha.
Namaskar. Good evening to one and all. Happy New Year to you all. I am Borsha Bisoi, UG first student, Balugang College, Balugang. My topic of today's webinar is inner mechanism.
Put on your camera.
Before going,
put on your camera.
Okay, sir. So good evening to one and all. Happy New Year to you all, and I am Borsha Bisoi, UG first year student, Balugang College, Balugang. My topic of today's webinar is inner mechanism. Before going to present my paper, I feel honored to extend my deep sense of gratitude to the respected judges of this webinar, Dr. Kailash Das sir, Dr. Anup sir, Dr. K. Om Narayan sir, my guide, respected Pramod sir, my teacher Kailash Chandra Maharana sir, and all the members of philosophy family for giving me this opportunity in national level. Though I am a beginner in philosophy, I have no ideas about the basic theories and concepts of philosophy, but I have gathered courage to stand before you. Now let me reflect my views on the topic. In my opinion, inner mechanism is the psychological and spiritual work of diving deep into our inner self, or to become familiar with the world within, for the purpose of self-exploration, self-understanding, healing, and spiritual transformation. In this paper, I shall discuss the dynamics of inner mechanism from three perspectives. They are psychophysical perspective, epistemological perspective, and spiritual perspective. After discussing this perspective of inner mechanism, I shall conclude with the message of the Bhagavad Gita for the purification of our inner mechanism. So, psychophysical perspective. In Indian philosophy and yoga, this inner mechanism is called Antahkarana, which refers to the internal organ, that is the location or inner organ of thought and feeling. The word Antahkarana originates from the Sanskrit word Antara, meaning interior or within. Karana meaning sense organ or cause. It translates as the inner cause or internal organ. It is defined as either the link between the body and the spirit. The term may be defined as the source of thinking or the mind, soul, heart, or conscience. According to Vedanta literature, Antahkarana consists of four parts, namely Manas, Chitta, Buddhi, and Ahankar. Mana or the mind is the seat of the affection and passion, sentiment and desires. Chitta or the memory is the seat of reasoning or thinking faculty. Buddhi is the seat of the discriminating faculty, the intellect, understanding, and judgment. Ahankar is the seat of perception or consciousness, the sense of individuality or ego. The inner mechanism of Antahkarana is reflected in various psychophysical responses. Mind is the connective link between subconscious and conscious. It flies away the impressions and perceptions from the external world in the storehouse of memories and bring them out again for the appropriate reasons. The mind does not judge or make a choice. It indiscriminately records all impressions. Buddhi or intellect carries out the assessment and filtering of what reaches consciousness and what goes down into the subconscious. On the basis of intellect, the appropriate action is carried out by the mind. The mind is constantly active in the waking state and also when dreaming. We can't stop the mind, but we are capable of guiding it. As we purify the mind by consciously thinking positive, the divine self can radiate through it. Buddhi, the intellect, processes, coordinate, and filters the sensory impressions. It decides which of them we accept and pursue. Further, Buddhi has two aspects, one egoistic and one selfless. The egoistic part is controlled by the ego, whereas the selfless principle judges on the basis of ethical maxims, which we call viveka. Chitta forms the basis of our perceptions and knowledge, like Buddhi. It is shaped by the experience of life, previous experiences, upbringing, culture, and education mold the way in which we perceive, judge, and value. Chitta determines the basic tendencies and coloring of our psyche. Ahankar, the ego. The ego claims that I am the doer. All our feeling, perceptions, ideas, desire linked to Ahankar. The ego is the psychic authority that creates the illusion of Karta Bhava or the sense of agency in any activity. Let's see our second perspective, that is epistemological perspective. The influences of inner mechanism results in three epistemological perspectives. They are knowing, not knowing, and wrongly knowing. Knowing is the true sense or right knowledge is called Paravidya in Upanishad. Not knowing or ignorance is called Avidya, and wrongly knowing is Aparavidya. The dichotomy between knowing and not knowing has been appreciated by the Upanishadic literature, and the possibilities of erroneous knowledge and biased knowledge has been condemned. It is also clearly declared in the Upanishads that avidya or ignorance is better than aparavidya. There is a saying in Odia literature, Alpa Vidya Bhayankari, which can be translated in English such as half knowing or incomplete knowing is dangerous. In Isa Upanishad, it is said that those who are devoted to ignorance enter the blinding darkness, and those who delight in knowledge enter into still greater darkness. Andham tamaha pravisanti yo vidyayam vapasate tato bhuya ibhate tamoyayu vidyayam rataha. In Jaina Darsana, it is also said that one should be aware of the relative character of empirical knowledge. The blind pursuit of knowledge makes the knower blind of the truth. As the famous story of elephant described the helpless position of five blind men who were giving judgment over the elephant from their partial perceptions. So, being blind is bad, but the situation is worse when knowledge is sought in the state of blindness. A blind man should know that he is blind. Similarly, avidya or ignorance is bad, but the rose is aparavidya, which misguide us. A person in the crossroad having no idea of the destination is better than the person who has traveled long in a wrong direction. Wrong knowledge leads to wrong action. Wrong action leads to bondage. Bondage leads to suffering. The ultimate goal of a human life is to attain peace and salvation. This state is never attained by the pursuit and practice of wrong knowledge. In almost all system of Indian philosophy, it is declared that ignorance or avidya is the root cause of suffering, and right knowledge is the only path for liberation. Man is such a peculiar rational animal in the creation who never admits that he is ignorant and who never attains complete knowledge. Therefore, he hangs between these two with the false support of his acquired empirical knowledge, which are subjected to error and bias. Man is ever misguided by false knowledge and live in the world of appearance, not reality. Wrong knowledge is due to adhyasa, means superimposition, and abhyasa, means habit. We mistake the snake as rope, but not the snake as tree or tiger. Why? The mistake is due to adhyasa or superimposition or of one on another. But when snake is mistaken as rope, not as a tree or tiger, it is due to our abhyasa, our past habit, our perceiving the similar thing. In this paper, I like to submit that adhyasa is due to abhyasa. Ignorance is natural, but the habit of ignorance misguide us in the long run. Sri Aurobindo is of the view that every state of knowledge is nothing but state of ignorance. The more we know what we do not know. Our knowledge is always limited by the higher knowledge, the gradation of knowledge. Every step of knowledge is the state of.
Hello, ma'am. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Ma'am, repeat again.
Sorry. Can you say which line I can repeat?
Ma'am,
Varsha,
Please continue.
you please continue, but just repeat 4 to 5 lines. If somebody is wanting, you just repeat 4 to 5 lines. Go back 4 lines.
Okay, sir. Thank you. Thank you, sir. I want to repeat. Sri Aurobindo is of the view that every state of knowledge is nothing but a state of ignorance. The more we know, what we do not know. Our knowledge is always limited by the higher knowledge. In the gradation of knowledge, every step of knowledge is the state of ignorance. In comparison with the higher knowledge, the small island of knowledge is surrounded by the vast ocean of ignorance. Knowledge removes ignorance and lands itself on another field of ignorance. This is the true transformation. Transformation is possible by right abhyas or practice of seeking right knowledge by knowing the limit of our knowledge. Ignorance is nothing but the limit of knowledge. It is the doorway to knowledge. But if the innocent, ignorant mind is misguided by false notion, fake education, wrong conviction, then all the doors of knowledge get closed and that habit or abhyasa has been condemned by the Upanishads. Let's move towards our third perspective, which is spiritual perspective, which is, I think, this is the most important one. The highest spiritual sadhana is the purification of our inner mechanism or antahakarana. The chitta should be free from all chitta vrittis or modification of chitta. The mind should be free from passionate desire. The buddhi should be sthira or contemplative, and the ahankar should be completely annihilated. This is possible by attaining paravidya, the knowledge per excellence, the highest fruition of our knowledge. That is the knowledge of complete identity with the truth. This is a trans-epistemological and trans-empirical state. This is a state where the knower, knowledge, and the known became one and identified as a unity. This is a state where all the relative perspective become the only perspective of truth. This is a state where the subject and object become integral to each other. This is the state of pure consciousness, pure existence, and pure bliss. All the knowledge is our state of existence and bliss. Right knowledge breeds perfect existence and pure bliss in our being. To attain this state, one should be very much aware of the distinction between both aparavidya and paravidya. There is nothing like avidya. Avidya is only our lack of understanding the distinction between right knowledge and wrong knowledge. The Isa Upanishad says, he who knows knowledge and ignorance both crosses beyond the death by ignorance and attains life eternal through knowledge. Vidyamcha avidyamcha yastad vedo bhyayam saha avidyaya mrityum tritva vidyaya amrutam asnud. Paravidya represents knowledge of the spirituality. True knowledge consists in realizing the one in the many and many in the one. It is to realize the self in all existence and all existence in the self. When for a man of realization, all beings become the very self. There is either no delusion or sorrow. So the central object of human life is self-realization. It can be attained only through comprehensive spiritual experiences, where we realize the divine both in its being and movement. We are asked to prepare for the divine life by cultivating vairagya and refraining from lust, greed, and hatred. I shall conclude it with 12 lessons that deeply affects our inner mechanism and leading the path to the finest perfection. Lesson 1. Whatever happen for the good. Whatever is happening for the good. Whatever will happen will also happen for the good. Lesson 2. We have the right to work, but we don't have to worry about the result. Lesson 3. Change is the law of the universe. Nothing is permanent. Lesson 4. The soul is neither born nor does it die. Lesson 5. We have come empty-handed and we will leave empty-handed. So abandon all attachment for material things. Lesson 6. Lust, anger, and greed are the three gates to self-destructive hell. Lesson 7. Man is made by his belief. As he believes, so he is. As he thinks, so he becomes. Man is the maker of his destiny. Lesson 8. When meditation is mastered, the mind is unwavering like a flame of a lamp in a windless place. Lesson 9. A person can rise through the efforts of his own mind or draw himself down in the same manner. Lesson 10. Desire will come to our mind and go. So we should not run after desire. We should live the ethics of Niskama Karma. Lesson 11. Culture a mind of equanimity. Lesson 12. Be a yogi through the perfection of jnana, karma, and bhakti. So thank you all.
Thanks so much, Varsha, for your brilliant presentation on inner mechanism. It is a very beautiful and clear presentation, and you have shown how inner mechanism is a psychological and spiritual work of a divine deep into the inner self, and you have reflected upon the dynamics of inner mechanism from three perspectives. I am not going into that. And at last, you have concluded and you have taken the Bhagavad Gita for the purification of inner mechanism. Thanks so much, Varsha, for your beautiful presentation. Now, over to Dr. K. Omnan Rao for moderating the question session.
Thank you, Dr. Maharana. Well, I should also thank the speaker, Varsha Bishoy. Well, I request the participants, if they have any questions in mind, they can unmute themselves and they can directly ask a question to Varsha Bishoy. I'll wait for half a minute, and if somebody is interested, they can unmute and make an observation or ask a question to Varsha Bishoy. Well, I don't see anybody. Well, I request now Dr. Kailash Das sir to make his own observations and also have one or two questions for Varsha.
Thank you, Varsha, for presenting. Being a very past year student, you have very nicely elaborated the points, and I am really impressed that the way you have presented it, and I think you have understood also whatever you have presented. So the point is, how do you take Gita, that it can change your antakaranas and purify everything? How do you say that it can purify your mind and prepare yourself? But Gita is called as Brahma Vidya as well as Yoga Shastra. In that context, will you reflect over it, that how your inner self is purified to accept the ethical teachings of Gita to be a better human being? So if you understand, please tell.
Okay, so thank you for being such a nice question to me. And your question is how Gita. So please, can you repeat again, please, sir?
How Gita is going to make a better person in you. In a very broad sense, how can Gita make you a better person than what you are?
Okay, so thank you for being such a nice question to me. Gita, we all know Gita is such a old book of Hindus, and I remember that when I'm a small girl of 12 years, my father once said that Gita is solution of every problem. But I don't understand this time. But when I read Gita, I just feel that it's actually the solution of every problem, and it helps a lot of in our life, and transformation of our life. It actually transform a lot in a lot of me, and I choose. I think that the point, the 12 point I refer in my paper. That actually that's all I have. One have attains their life, and मैं सोचती हूँ कि ये सबकी लाइफ में जरूर काम आएगा, और ये 12 जो गीता के सार है, मैं उसको हर किसी के लाइफ में अगर ये 12 बात प्रैक्टिकली अगर कोई इसको इस 12 बातों को अगर प्रैक्टिकली कोई अपने लाइफ में प्रैक्टिस करे तो फिर उसके लाइफ में जरूर चेंज आएगा. मैं
There's a break of voice. So
कि मेरे लाइफ में तो बहुत चेंजेस आए.
She's saying that.
इसलिए मैं सोचा कि ये
Okay, but she is saying that she has written 12 lessons at the end of her paper, and she says that if anybody will practice these 12 lessons, then there will be transformation in his or her life. She is saying that. Just
okay.
Okay, Dr. Roy. Dr. Anup Roy, sir, anything to say?
Yes. Thank you, boss, sir, for your nice paper. And you are a nice girl too. Because I say, being a first year student, you have presented a very, very clear, lucid paper, and that is really good. And you are a nice girl, I say, in this sense, because from the beginning you said that I don't know anything. You know, when you say that you don't know anything, that is the first step towards knowledge. Keep your mind open. Always think that I don't know anything, so that you can achieve more and more, know more and more. Once a feeling comes to you that I know, the door of knowledge closes. So, but never allow the feeling within you that I know, so that you will try to know. Knowledge is infinite. In one lifetime, probably we cannot know everything. So always keep on learning. And from the beginning, you have written such a beautiful paper. I must congratulate you. You know, Socrates told that when the question asked, you know everything, everybody in Greece told, yes, I know what is God, what is true, I know everything. But only Socrates said that I know that I don't know anything. That made him the wisest person in Greece. Keep that feeling within your life that I don't know. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Well, Barsa, taking from what Professor Roy has said, and also what you said during the course of your paper, that our knowledge defines our ignorance. As you made a reference to Sri Aurobindo and what Socrates, what Professor Roy has pointed out, a similar thing you have said, our knowledge defines our ignorance, and then you, in the next patch, you try to say that our small island of knowledge is bounded by a vast ocean of ignorance. So how do you see this? How do you explain this? How our knowledge defines our ignorance, and what do you mean by saying that a small island of knowledge is bounded by a vast ocean of ignorance? This is from your presentation. What do you mean by that?
Okay, so thank you for giving such a good question to me. I'm clarify this answer in my paper, but I'm going to clarify clarify this. We know that knowledge is infinite. Okay, so in our lifespan, we gather or collect a few amount of knowledge. When जब हम देखते हैं वो infinite knowledge and our knowledge in our lifespan, it looks like just when we saw जब हम space में रह के हम लोगों को देखते हैं वो उसी तरह कुछ feeling आता है. फिर भी knowledge is I'm saying that knowledge is an ocean. Knowledge is a vast ocean, and when we get the knowledge or we get something amount of knowledge in our lifespan, we gather and collect a few amount of knowledge in our whole life. So I just मैं उसी परिप्रेक्ष्य में वो actually मैं कहा था. So thank you.
Okay, thank you, Barsa. So what Barsa tries to say is, whatever may be the status of knowledge, there is always a feeling of incompleteness, and that keeps us moving ahead and searching for more. So whatever may be the status, a big ocean of ignorance, a sort of incompleteness always hangs in our minds. So that is what is meant by what he said.
Professor Rao.
Yes.
What she should have said is this, that knowledge is infinite or ignorance is infinite. Actually, it is ignorance which is infinite. Our knowledge is very finite and very small. That is what she means to say. But we normally we all say that knowledge is infinite. Actually, our ignorance is infinite. And knowledge is very limited and finite. We know very little. That is the real understanding. So
Yes.
actually, she meant to say this, but
Yes.
she said knowledge is infinite, and we also normally believe such a thing, right? Just this is a digression. Okay.
Okay, so thank you, sir.
Professor Das wants to say something. Pramod Das wants to say something.
No. She is saying that knowledge is infinite in this sense. Knowledge is infinite, but our knowledge is finite. That means that the syllabus of knowledge is infinite. There are many subjects in university, but we read history, we read sociology, we read mathematics. That means the syllabus of the university is more than our selection of subjects. We human, that is the version of Kant, that is the version of the Jaina system. We human beings, whatever we know through our human format, that is finite. But the knowledge is infinite means the knowledge is equal to our knowledge plus our ignorance.
So
The second thing, the second point, she said that my knowledge determines my ignorance. In that sense, she has also written and she has read that my knowledge is nothing but ignorance, from the perspective of the higher knowledge. Till I don't know the higher knowledge, this knowledge is ignorance. So the more we know what we do not know. In that sense, every state of knowledge is a state of ignorance, because there is still a possibility to know more and more. And also what Dr. Das said, he is also right, that our ignorance is so vast that in a very short span of life, it is very difficult to remove the infinite ignorance. Thank you. This is just my. It is not no way it contributes the the merit of his candidate.
If we take this mathematically, if at all there is infinite knowledge and we only know the finite, so infinite minus finite, that is always infinite, you may call it knowledge, you may call it ignorance. That part is already always there. It is the part that ignorance, that gap is ignorance.
And one sentence Dr. Das said, I appreciate that. Knowledge is infinite, and also our ignorance is also infinite. And very beautifully said by Sri Aurobindo. And he is the first person who has highlighted on the concept of ignorance. Therefore, he has described different layers of consciousness, different types of human mind. Western philosophers manage with only mind as brain. Mind means the intelligent instrument. No. In our land, mind is simply a state of consciousness, a layer of consciousness. And there are many possibilities of knowing. That is the difference between you and me with Vivekananda, Vivekananda with Sri Aurobindo. Many people, many minds, many layers of consciousness.
Okay, thank you, sir. Very nicely said. One thing, let me add one line. What I've said, that whatever infinite knowledge that we may talk of, whatever infinite, you take it as ignorance or knowledge, infinite minus finite is always infinite. You call it ignorance because we don't know that. That reason is unknown. That's why we
yes.
Because that is unknown, we call it ignorance. Yes. And there is a possibility that can be known. That constitutes, that is knowledge. So in a negative, in one side you say that gap is ignorance, because there is a gap we do not know. That's why you call it ignorance. And there is a possibility that gap can be covered, and lower knowledge can be nullified by some higher knowledge. There is a possibility of transcending. So there is a path to knowledge. So we call it a knowledge. So both sides we can speak of.
We know. And we give certificates to ourselves that we know. That is the crisis. Okay. So there is always a chance for it. Therefore science claims that the latest conclusion of science is only relative by nature. That the greatest declaration of latest science. So knowledge is relative in relation to the absolute, in relation to the totality. In the island is really very small, the knowledge, with the vast ocean of ignorance. So Dr. Das said that ignorance is infinite. Really, ignorance is infinite.
Thank you, Dr. Das. Now let us move to Kailas Mahana sir for carrying on the further proceedings.
Okay, thanks so much, sir, for your beautiful presentation. And you have tried to reflect upon the question raised by Professor Das, Professor Rao, and Professor